So let's go into the first exercise. And we're going to do the classical first exercise for learning how to program with computers. And we're going to ask the computer to tell back to us, hello world. All right, so we're going to go over the basic structure of a script and how we can use a particularly useful function called print in order to send messages back to you while the computer is running any one of your scripts. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do the hello world action twice. We're going to do once where we set it to Rhino's command line, and then we're going to do it again where we actually specify that that should be a text object created inside of Rhino. So some quick notes before we go any further with writing our script. We need to be aware of three particular characteristics of how Python works. So syntax are the specific rules and kind of conventions related to using any particular scripting language. And with Python, there are three that we need to be really cautious of. First of all, Python is case sensitive. That means uppercase and lowercase letters. It matters how they're specified. So if we look at my number using what's called camel case, lowercase m, lowercase y, capital case, or uppercase n number is not the same as that same word in all capitals, right? So it's case sensitive relative to the letters. Python is also space sensitive. So we have to be very cautious with where we're allowing space to exist within our script. So my number is not the same as my space number. Those will be understood by Python as two separate things. Lastly, Python is indent sensitive. What that means, and that's not showing up for you, those look like the same thing. The key tab or enter, those specific keystrokes show different or are understood by Python as different, right? I'll show you what this exactly means, indent sensitive, when we get into the scripting environment. It'll be easier to see there as opposed to in this slide. So Python is sensitive relative to how we give it information in three ways: case, space, and indent. All right, so let's go ahead and let's start writing our first Python script. So we're going to go to Tools, Python Script, Edit. And this will bring up that editor that we were looking at just a second ago. So if we go to Tools, Python Script, Edit, all right, this is what you should see. This is your Rhino Python editor. It's a floating window that's above Rhino. It has a set of drop-down menus here, some icon buttons along here, and then this is the key part. This is where we're going to be writing our scripts. All right, so the very first thing that we're going to do is we want to write our hello world script. All right, so again, the location for that is under Tools, Python Script, Edit, and that will open up this window. Okay, so if I just start typing hello world, Python's not going to like that because I'm not being very specific. This is as if I'm just writing in Microsoft Word, right? So I need to be a little bit more specific, and in order to actually start, we said that we were going to use the Rhino script syntax as a kind of filter or a way for us to use all of the Rhino script methods that have existed for a long time that are pretty easy to use. They're user-friendly. So the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to give ourselves a note, right? This will be a note that only we understand. So the first thing we want to do is we want to use the hashtag or #, that's Shift 3, and we're going to say this is a note. All right, so you could call it note. You could also call it a comment. Those are specific bits of information that we put into our scripts that allow us to understand better what we're trying to do, and the computer will ignore them. Python won't look at this line because it has this pound sign at the beginning. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is then start to build out a couple of notes for ourselves. The objective here is that we want to say, have the computer tell us, hello world. All right, so at the very beginning, the first step we're going to do is we're going to import the Rhino script syntax, right, to allow us to use all of the Rhino script methods, which are located under the drop-down here, which we'll get to in a second. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to say that we want Rhino to tell us hello world through the command line. All right. Rhino's command line is the interface portion of Rhino up here at the top, where you can type in information for Rhino to use, or Rhino also asks you for things through the command line. So this is going to be our very first script. All right. So at the very top, we're going to write import, and notice how it starts with lowercase I. Remember, case sensitive. Once I hit spacebar, it turns into a keyword. It's highlighted with a bold blue. Right? That means that it's understood as a special word in the scripting syntax. So that's good. And then it gives me some options. So this is a kind of smart complete for writing your script. And sometimes it's really great because you can see what options you have. Other times it can be a little annoying because it tries to guess what you're trying to type. But for now, all we're going to do is type Rhino script syntax. So once it starts to highlight that, you can either hit enter or you can finish off the word and hit enter. So that's going to bring in this additional library of methods. Next, we want to say that from now on, using the Rhino script syntax, we're going to use a shortcut. So we're going to say that the Rhino script syntax will now be known as RS for Rhino script syntax. All right, now to actually complete this exercise, you don't need these first two lines, but I intentionally am including them because we need to get into the habit of using this and setting up our script every time. If we're going to be using the Rhino script methods, every time we need to include this at the very top. All right, so there's our first line, and let's go down after our next comment, and this is where we're trying to ask Rhino to tell us hello world. Here what we're going to do is we're going to type the keyword print and then open parentheses, quotes, hello world, close quotes, close parentheses. So this says we want to use this text and we want it to go into the command line. All right, so if we have those two lines of code written, we can go ahead and click the green triangle, which is to start the script. If everything is successful, you'll see hello world is now here in the command line, or right above it, the last command that was used. It should also be here in the output window that is a portion of the Rhino Python editor. So print is a very useful command that allows us to send information down here, as well as to the command line. So it's a really useful method, or let's stick with calling it a method. It's a useful method to allow us to figure out what exactly is happening as we're running our script.